Hi, my name is Steven and I make fonts as Arrow type. Today I am going to be doing a bit of an experiment, or maybe continuing an experiment, uh, just talking apparently, and trying my hand at making a black letter. So to explain, here is the very start of Kyrios Black. Um, this family already has a regular text size, so optical size for text, around 12 to 16 points, and a display, also regular, but much bigger size intended for. English is difficult. Intended for a much larger size. Um, a fun thing about this family is that it I should show you the variable version, I guess. It's something I've made um, trying to sort of hack my way to axes. So what I mean by that is that a lot of these letters, because it's a black letter, for instance, I started by squishing this down, I think to 25%, and then stretching it up to the same cap height as before. And that made it much smaller. But the result of that is that it can be much more condensed, and still keep like a kind of logical resemblance to the smaller optical size. And yeah, let me try to pull up a example. So here we are in Font Goggles. So here's the text. Hello, YouTube. And when we change this optical size, you can see that it gets much narrower. The contrast becomes higher contrast, so there's more difference between thicks and thins. And some of the forms even change. So you can see the E is changing. Our others, yeah, the H and T are changing to become sort of more ornamental, whereas here they're kind of custom made to be more legible. So yeah, I am testing that, taking the text and making a black version. And I'll kind of explain how I'm approaching it, and then I'll try to draw a few and do a bit of spacing and kind of talk through what I'm thinking as I'm going. And how am I actually working on this? So let me show you where I'm at, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the process getting here, and then do a little bit of it. So currently I am at the stage where I'm doing spacing strings for my base lowercase in this text black style. And I've kind of been going sequentially, and I've reached the letter P. I'm being a little bit quick with it, not perfecting corners and curves too much yet, just because I'm trying to get an overall impression of the family before I work too hard on any one glyph. Ultimately, I'm looking to test this idea of a weight axis, and I think I'm getting somewhere, but I don't totally know just yet. How did I get here, though? It was with a script. So let me find this. Here we are. Not that. Here we go. So this script I have called prepbold2. It's part of Kyrios as a project so far. Oops, that did not work. Come on, stop it. Trying to get... There we go. Sorry, I was trying to do the right command to go into Zen mode, as it's called, in VS Code. And yeah. So this script isn't that complex, really. I kind of pieced it together from a little bit of code I found on the Glyphs forum, I think. I kind of forget what came from where. Parts of it I definitely figured out to an extent, like using the API or other open scripts or some Glyph scripting work I've done in the past. But basically, when you select a range, one or more glyphs in Glyphs app, this goes through the glyph layers. Sorry, it gets the selected glyphs, and then it goes through the layers in those selected glyphs, and the purpose is to copy the basic shape to the background, and then copy it again and shift it by a certain amount. And my thinking around it is like, it's a lot like making a pen nib wider if you were to do this as calligraphy, which black letter fonts are all based on calligraphy. So that's what I'm testing anyway, as a theory. So this copies paths from one layer to another, which is the foreground to the background, and then sets up a transformation and moves all the points in that way. And it's pretty basic. I did experimentation actually with I guess it might be worth showing this too, actually. I did some experimentation where I had output the masters from glyphs into UFOs, and I made a design space for them, and that allowed me to script the UFOs, the like different font format, to try this idea of making a faux bold axis by duplicating and shifting contours. So actually, let me find that before I show reveal and explore view. Which one was it? Those are all UFOs. Was it just here? I should really sort it if it is just here. No. All right, this is a bit silly. Oh, duh. Okay, wait via duplication. So let's look at this in Finder. I guess because I'm in full screen, it wouldn't do it. Okay. Most recent. Weird, they're all about the same recency. Probably because I was changing branches in Git. Well, we'll just try this one with the simpler name. Okay, so this kind of did split it up, but it's a good example of what was going on really and how I chose to shift by the amount I did. Basically, I found that if I shifted by about 200 units on the x-axis, the counters were still basically intact. And if I shifted by 200, that was a little too chaotic and it didn't seem to follow the overall like angle of the pen on this design. So like, let's put an O in here as well, an NO. So I realized like, actually the pen is more at this angle approximately. I was kind of eyeballing it and realized, oh, that's like 200 and 100. And I actually realized I could also basically reduce both of those values, I think by half, like cutting them in two for the upper optical size. And the reason I maybe sound slightly uncertain is that I did a lot of these experiments a couple weeks ago. So I'm like sort of recreating my memory of it. Let's try this one. Yeah, I think this is one where instead of having split axes for X shift, Y shift, I just combine them into a single weight range. And here I was testing, shifting by 200 and 100 and cutting that in half for the display. And lastly, let me check this one. Here, I think perhaps, can I drag? I could check both of these at once to see if there's any difference. Wait, what? Maybe there's not any difference. Oh well. One thing I did that's pretty subtle is that I also tried to control the spacing a little bit and kind of reduce the spacing after increasing the weight, but really basically trying to keep an optical appearance of spacing that was the same rather than enlarged after shifting and duplicating things. I should say neither enlarged nor diminished, because if I had not changed the glyph advance widths at all, then they'd just be totally crashing into one another. So you can see that this line does get a little longer as the glyphs get wider. Yeah, so that was kind of a proof of concept. And I felt like, obviously, these look like duplicated glyphs. So you might ask, what is the point of that? It was kind of so I could like set it in smaller text and just try it out a little bit and kind of explore where that point was of thickening strokes before it would really fall apart and be illegible. And it was a lot faster to do this way than to try to like redraw a whole complex typeface glyph by glyph without any sort of idea of how far to make it, how bold to make it. So right, that said, this glyph script basically does that same thing of duplicating and moving things, but in glyphs app rather than in UFOs. And so let's see if I can give a demo of it. We know that, I probably already did it for a lot of my glyphs. I did, but I can just, here, I'll delete the background layer. I go there with Command B and come back with Command B. And then script, Kyrios, prep bold, template and background, take 2. And boom, you can see that it replaced our background layer, and here we are. And right, I've already done that for a lot of the lowercase. It works better for the lowercase in this family because the lower space in a typical black weight, like very bold weight, will increase the X height, so the X height can increase. Whereas the caps, the uppercase, have been a bigger challenge so far because those just have to get wider and then change in contrast, and figuring out all of it. But let's rerun that script again. Here's for the 1. It hasn't been done for any of these yet, so I can actually select all of these, rerun the script, and then it should, you can see that these are here. And probably the script, if I was being really clever about it, I would, or even moderately clever, I would probably reduce the spacing as part of this script. But I don't know. I haven't done that so far. I've just been kind of like manually respacing it, and it's worked pretty well. Okay, so let's actually like go ahead and edit this. So you just can kind of see like, okay, can I view glyph info? Maybe I have the wrong shortcut here. Show info. Oh, there it is. I was looking for this guy. Yeah, this is certainly not a magic bullet. Not something that like really automates the process. It's more that it's just better than stumbling in the dark. It gives me a very quick way to explore about the right thickness that I want. And then I still have to do lots of fixing, but at least I'm not going blind. not flying blind. All right. And this week I was TAing for a type design class, and it was a good reminder that, like, I think a lot of people who are new to Glyphs app, or any type designer for that matter, don't think it's that important to learn shortcuts. But for spacing, it is like the most critical thing. You know what? I could do this even more easily if I rotate this guy. And that'll get us really close. This shows that I like shifted the kind of apex of the letter. Let's flip that. Why don't we? Make it real nice and short. Uh-oh. Gotta boost these up. Oh, sometimes they hit the wrong buttons. Cool. Cool. All right. And yeah, I think I've got to boost this up a little bit too to keep it legible. If it goes too far down, it like, there's no descender at all. So that's useful. Cool. And here's I'm not positive yet whether I will want to stretch the N, or what am I even saying? I'm not positive yet whether I will want to copy part of the N, but maybe let's check that in the background as well. Okay. So you can add a component to a background, and then you can trace that, which is very handy. And funny enough, well, no, I think it still does help to have a background image to follow. Right now, I'm not really following any background image. I'm just kind of like, I transformed a lot of points by 200. I transformed the background by, what am I even saying? I'm transferring points by 200, 100, and trying to get where I'm trying to go there. But let's get rid of these for a sec and show our background again. That kind of allows us to see how this is doing in terms of corner points. I did change some of these corner points. And I don't quite know what to do with these guys. This at the bottom was an extrapolation. I don't think I'm actually going to try to do that one. Oh, this is an interpolation, so that's kind of cool. Maybe. Let's go to our font info, Command I, exports. We don't have a text ultra export yet, so we can't put it at the bottom. Add instance. We will call it text ultra. And I guess I'm just going by standard weight values. And 16. Cool. So now it's in here. Cool. Okay. A funny part of this exercise is that the text bold shouldn't actually be using some of these forms. So I showed, for instance, how just trying to compare it against all four of these control characters. I showed how In font goggles, what am I thinking? In font goggles, there are sensible alternates to keep things more legible. In a bunch of cases, and I guess maybe not the C. I guess this one didn't have it. Let's see. Where are we at? Where are we at? This has the alternates. Right. So anyway, I am sort of drawing what is in the text if you turn off RVRN. These are kind of the default forms, which sort of work in text, but not well. Yeah, by the way, I guess if you were using the display, I see you can also get this result, I think, by turning on that stylistic set 3 in the display. You can either have higher legibility forms or allowing the forms to be their usual. So that means I have to draw those forms twice, but that's okay. Okay, this is all very lumpy, but maybe it's fine. I am trying to not get too hung up on doing every last detail. So this might be good enough. If it's working today, cool. We've got variable font preview. Let's see. Yeah, okay, it's fine. Sometimes it like asks me for the license, even though I've already done it, but oh well. Yeah, you can see kind of how these points react, and that's not too bad. How did I do the uppercase C? Oh, I have a very different thing going on here in all three of these. So that is not good. I will definitely want to experiment with that. How do these kind of ball terminals grow when the weight grows? I guess one advantage of doing this sort of quickly and not thinking about it too hard in the first pass is that I'm kind of naturally trying different experiments within reason to some of these weight and contrast questions. Yeah, still hard to know the right answer, but we'll get there. Okay, that goes up. This is going to be tricky. Probably not the right answer. Yeah, definitely not. It's total chaos. I feel like I'm going like partially blind. Okay. Maybe this one will just be deeply silly. I should be drawing with like fill turned on probably. How do you do that? I think it's some sort of well, this is one way. I think it's some kind of maybe thing. Extension. Yeah, it's pretty hard to know how to treat any of this. This is probably the weirdest character so far, which I guess should be a huge surprise to anyone who's ever tried to draw an S in any typeface. But it is a special treat right now. Special challenge. I just don't know. This is not thick enough yet. That's annoying. Well, we're gonna have to change the shape, I think, somewhat to make any sense right there. Let's try this. Okay. Getting to the point where maybe I can move on from this one for a minute, even though it looks not great. Maybe it's usable, and it's not the main intended letter form for this optical size anyway, so I should probably draw that as well, I suppose, but I might not for now. But there's s.text. Why don't we try it just to see if this works a little more easily. Oh gosh, I was up early this morning and then I skateboarded, and now I am just a bit of a sleepy mess. So I might possibly leave off there. All right, I'll do one more. I'll do the T. This should perhaps be an easy one. Not yet. You know what? We'll just copy all of this piece. And then we'll move it down. That was much better. Okay. Very rudimentary for now, but maybe enough to have a higher fidelity test of some of the ideas here. So let's go to our font. This is the Latin basic filter view. And let's say grab our several letters that have been boldified and go to edit, Wordomat, selected gloss only, capitalize. This is 200 words, I think. I do not control these words, so hopefully you don't see anything offensive, but if you do, it wasn't my fault. It's just a random dictionary. Okay. Yeah, well, we have a lot more variety than our earlier test because, you know, the S and T are two very common letters. So those are probably having a pretty big impact here. I guess the other thing I should do also is, does this variable font preview work on... Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. But it's not terrible. I mean, I don't see any huge kinks. There's a kink here for sure if you look closely. Yeah, it really kinks. So let's try to fix that one. And I think it's possible that... Oops. I see. So the difference here is that when a point and its off-curve points or handles are at an angle between different masters of an interpolated font or variable font, the ratio of those handles has to stay the same, or the angle has to stay the same. Here, the angle is changing. It's flattening out a lot, and the angle ratios are changing a lot. There you can see this point was in the middle. Here, it's like way off to this end. But we should be able to get basically the same curve here, same shape, possibly without, let's see, let's try it without a kink. Yeah, there's possibly a very slight kink, but it's kind of imperceptible. So yeah, you can see how much better that is probably. That's pretty sick. And yeah, I will keep trucking on this, and maybe I'm going to have a nap first. Again, I am just like weirdly exhausted today. Maybe it's a bit of the heat or something. But thanks for watching. If you're making fonts or doing other creative projects, I hope it's going really nicely, and I appreciate you for tuning in. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about glyphs. I'm also available through my website and my email on there or Instagram, and almost always happy to chat about fonts. So get in touch if you like. Thanks and take care.